Yes, over to you then, Mr. Rushton.
Okay, morning everybody. Welcome to Leicester Rutland Combined Fire Authority. This is on YouTube as well, available after the meeting. The link is available on the CFA website. Meeting is being held remotely, so for anybody who's watching, no members of the Fire Authority are at the head office. Everybody's remote. Can I please ask that all officers and members mute their microphones until they wish or invited to speak? And for the sake of the stream, can I ask all members to keep their video camera on for the duration of the meeting? If you wish to speak, just use the little yellow hand facility and I'll see it. Another thing, if the webcast fails, we have to take a short adjournment, but just stay online and we'll recommence when it's resolved. If a vote is required, we'll ask you to indicate for or against, so speak clearly when asked. If there's no vote required, we'll just do it by ascension. Please ensure your mobile phones are switched off. So we've got a couple of visitors today. So we've got Louise Richardson, who's substituting for Dan Harrison, who is recovering from COVID. We've got Councillor Valland, who is substituting for Ray Bhatia. And later on, as you just heard before the meeting, we've got Matthew Wallace, who's the Director of Estates and Building Service at the City Council, who will be presenting us today at item 14. I better do the usual roll call just to make sure for the stream that all members can see and hear everyone else. I'll start in alphabetical order. So Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I'm present. Thank you.
Right.
And can hear and see everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Bentley. I know he's there because I've seen him. Where is he?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Chair. I was struggling to unmute. I can both see and hear you. Thank you.
Very good. Ken Ball from Rutland.
Yes, thank you, Chair. All present.
Bill Bolter.
Thank you, Chair. See, hear you.
Thank you. John Coxon.
Present, Chairman. Can see and hear.
Very good. Councillor Fonseca from the City.
Yes, Chair. I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Johal from the City.
Thank you, Chair. Present.
Very good. Gerald Kaufman, or Jeffrey, always get it wrong. Anyway, Mr. Kaufman.
Hello, good morning. Can see and hear you.
Very good. Bill Licorice.
Yes, okay, Chairman.
Great. Michael Mullaney.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Betty Newton. I know you're there, Betty. Have another go, Betty.
Sorry, I was bending down to get something I dropped. I'm here. Thank you, Chair.
I knew you were. Young Ted Parton.
Yeah, good morning, Fire Chief, Chairman, everybody.
Good morning. Louise Richardson, the substitute.
Morning, everyone. I can see and hear.
Very good. Councillor Thalduka from the City.
Hi, Chair. Good morning. I can hear you, but I can't see you. I don't know why.
I can see you.
But I can't see you.
All right. Well.
Okay, we'll see that.
Okay.
Thank you.
New boy, Councillor Valland from the City.
Hello, good morning, Chair. I am Councillor Valland from Belgrave, from Leicester, and I'm substitute for Mr. Ray Bhatia.
I know. Nice to welcome you.
Thank you,
finally, but not least, Maggie. Right.
Yes, present, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so as I said earlier, we've had apologies for absence from Councillor Harrison and Mrs. Richardson. Councillor Harrison and from Ray Bhatia, and I've said who the substitutes are. So the next item is declarations of interest. If you've got a declaration, just raise the little yellow hand. We have none. Thank you. 3 is urgent items. I have none. Chairman's announcements. I have circulated them. So I'll just say a few words about each one just for the stream. So Richard Hall, Assistant Chief Fire Officer, retired 31st of January. He was a good man. It's a shame to lose him, but there you go. So we wish him well in his retirement and thank him for his work he's done for a long time. The service badge, as you know, the service badge has now been deployed across the entire service. Staff like it. I think people who see the officers like it. And also we're going to get the new shirts out very soon in the coming weeks, which I think staff will appreciate. There's some promotions in the service following significant staff engagement. The Chief will probably talk about that later. But worthy of note is that this includes a secondment into the Equality, Inclusion and Diversity team, which, as you know, as a service we're very keen on, and Betty leads on that and she may say something later. And then one item that's not on the chairman's announcement is good news in one way for Alison Greenhill, who's been promoted at the City Council following the move of the existing, and I think they at the City Council they call themselves Chief Operating Officers. So Alison has been promoted to Chief Operating Officer. So I presume in due course we will be losing Alison but getting somebody else from the City Council. So congratulations, Alison. I would have certainly voted for you if I'd had an opportunity. So now we move on to public participation, CFA rules of procedure, members' questions, and we've not received any. So item 6 is we need to deal with the minutes of the Fire Authority held just before Christmas. These are on 5 to 12 of your agenda pack, and I will move them, and hopefully the Kulwinder will second them. So I'll move them formally. Kulwinder?
I'll second them, Chair.
Thank you. Are we all in favour of the minutes? Just type of raise a bit of a hand. That's very good. Thank you very much. First proper report today is the consider the minutes of the Corporate Governance Committee meeting held on the 18th of November last year, of course. These are pages 13 to 18 of your agenda pack. Who chaired the Corporate Governance meeting?
Kenneth Wool, Chairman, and I'm very happy to move those.
Did somebody a seconder who attended the meeting, please?
I'm Vice Chair, so I will second the minutes. Thank you.
Excellent. All in favour? Thank you there, Ken and Betty. So first item on the report is the report on the revenue, budget and capital programme for 21-22. For the record, this is on pages 19 to 46 of your agenda. Callum Faint, still being called the Interim Chief and Fire Rescue Officer. And Alison, I presume she'll tell us when she speaks that she's going to have somebody else doing the job now. She's got full-time Sir Peter. So I think it's you first, Callum, then Alison, yeah?
If it's okay with you, Chair, I'll hand straight over to Alison as the subject matter expert.
Okay, Alison. So you've heard what we've said about you. We like you. We're ashamed to be losing you. So this could be your swan song. Can anybody hear Alison?
No, Chair, I can't.
I think it's frozen, Chair.
Frozen.
Alison, you've frozen, and you'll have to start again.
She's on mute, and she's back.
You're on mute, Alison.
Yes, sorry, Chair. This is Colin Sharp. Sorry to interrupt. Alison's messaged me to say that she keeps losing sound. She's clearly having some IT problems at the moment.
Have you got the papers to hand, Colin?
I have, but I'm not particularly prepped to present them. But yes, I sort of have them to hand, and we've got, I think, Amy Oliver, the Chief Accountant, is also attending the meeting. So,
just one of you two run through it, and if Alison comes back on, we'll take her.
I'm happy to, if that's all right with Colin and yourself.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Yeah, welcome, Amy.
Okay, so we're bringing through to you the revenue and budget for I'll start again. Sorry, I'm not very prepared for this. The revenue and capital budget report for the 21-22. I believe you've all, as a committee, seen this report before. We released it for consultation in December. So what I'll do, if that's okay with you, Chair, is I'll just highlight what's changed since when we originally sent it to you.
That's wise.
So when we do the budget setting in December, we don't know the council tax levels and we don't know the business rates levels at that point. So what we do is we estimate them. Now, obviously, as you all know, it's been a very tough year for all districts and city authorities with the collection of the council tax and NDR due to sort of uncertainties in relation to COVID. So when we were looking at council tax in December, we were sort of forecasting a 1% increase on tax base, which is it's actually a lot lower than what we normally get, but we were trying to be prudent. It's actually come out lower than that. So actually our council tax collection will be slightly lower for 21-22 than we originally forecast. However, that's been compensated by the fact our business rates is forecast to be slightly higher next year. That's largely to do with the fact that government are giving us some of the money through Section 31 grant rather than us actually having to collect it from businesses like we would normally do.
Yeah.
So overall, our financial position for next year is slightly better than we originally forecast at £238,000, which is what we've highlighted in the formal resolution that we sent through to you yesterday. It was the second one you got.
Yeah.
Okay, what we're proposing to do with that is put that into the budget strategy reserve so that you've got some more money for future years. Then, as you'll see in the formal resolution, we're proposing no change to the council tax precept that we presented back in December, which will be £69.29 for a Band D equivalent property. Otherwise, there is no changes to what was released as part of the consultation, but I'm really happy to take any questions or if Alison or Colin are there, I'm sure they'll assist if there's anything you want to ask. Sorry, that was very brief.
That's okay. Well, we're all involved in all manner of budgets in all manner of places, Amy, so you're speaking to the converted here. I'll just take some questions and I'll formally move something. So we've got Ted Parton.
Sorry, right, I'm here. I just wanted to check something, please. It states that we're agreeing the 2021 budget, the 21-22, sorry. But it also says that we're agreeing what takes place with the 22-23. What does that actually mean? Does that mean that there's a draft budget that can change, or are we allowing for work on it to take place? I'm not quite sure what that means.
Can I? So with that one, what we do is in the main budget report, not in the formal resolution, we give you a draft position for the next financial year. Normally we'd give you 2 or 3 years, but with COVID and the waiting for the settlement review and the fair funding, we've only given you sort of an indicative for the following year. So what we're doing is for you to note the 22-23 really, but it will change next year when we represent the report because we'll have more accurate figures around council tax and business rates.
Yes, that's right. It's at County Hall, Ted, as you know, we do an MTFS, which is getting increasingly hard when the government only announced 1 year money. So I think what they're doing is having a bit of a estimate at 22-23, but as Amy says, it will certainly change, but it'll be in the ballpark. Is that enough for you, Ted?
Yeah, there was one other question. There was one specifically about something we were buying, but in terms of the, it says paragraph 15, the capital strategy, we now have to say that we don't undertake a commercial investment.
Yeah.
You'll have to excuse me. Have we discussed this in a previous fire authority? Because if you look at I think it's the last item on the agenda, which is the I think it's either 14 or 15. It talks about how in the future we could well be doing more home working, remote working, which would obviously free up office space. So at what point do we have a discussion about when we can maybe start leasing office space or something? Does that tie into what we mean by commercial investment?
No, the commercial investment one, Ted, is the government has been clamping down on some councils. I mean, due to COVID as well, but they've been borrowing from the Public Works Loan Board and investing it and working on the spread, if you understand me. The Fire Authority has never done that, and we wouldn't intend to do that. But the government is clamping down on that. On the office strategy, again, Ted, it's a bit like at County Hall. We will have to think in the longer term whether or not people will want to come back into offices. So that's type of highlighting that we're aware of it. and we'll have to have a look at it. I mean, we're not particularly overburdened with office space, as you know, Ted. At the fire headquarters, a lot of it is already let out to third parties. It's just, as far as I'm aware, just highlighting the fact that we need to be cognizant of the changing working patterns. Would that summarise it, Amy?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You pull the words out of my mouth.
Okay. Is that okay for you, Ted?
Yes, that's fine. There was one question. It was more to do with. I'm always in a bit of a quandary here, whether to ask specific questions or to contact the officers direct, because I'm conscious I don't want to sort of take up their valuable time. But it says we've bought something called automated defibrillators.
Yes.
And I wonder what they were.
Yeah, somebody will answer that. The defibrillators that are automated, but who's going to answer it?
I can answer that, Chair, if that helps. It's
Yeah,
Callum.
go ahead, Callum.
As part of our first aid provision or immediate casualty care, we purchased defibrillators, which are ultimately used to restart people's hearts in the event of a heart attack or other significant events. They're basically really good electronic devices that are, for want of a better word, foolproof and able to talk not only firefighters but equally anyone who happens to pick them up how they're used. Real life-saving equipment, and have saved lives across the country many times. A really good and strong addition or replacement for our first aid provision. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have those, Callum, because as you know, we're often first on the scene for some, so it's useful. All right, let's go to Maggie, and then I've got you, Betty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, we're preaching to the converted, really, because we're all dealing with budgets. But I'm wondering if it'd be an opportune moment again to collectively try and lobby regarding the council tax and the fact that we can only go up by small percentages and not by the £5, because the cumulative effect of what we're losing in revenue, being a blue light service as well, in comparison with parishes and town councils, I think our proportion now of the precept is really low. And, you know, if we went to the £5, we'd have an awful lot more in the revenue budget. And it was just whether we could do that, Chair, sorry.
It's all right. I mean, we could actually, if I'll just wait and see what everybody else says, but we could actually add something to the recommendations that we write to whoever we write to and say we're disappointed we can't use that £5 facility that others can.
Yes.
Betty first.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can, Betty.
Okay. Firstly, in terms of the defibrillators, disused phone boxes, you know, the old red phone boxes are used to store defibrillators in. I have one in my patch in Hathern. So just wanted to say to Ted, they're right there and they're a really good idea. What I wanted to mention firstly was I was interested to see that there was no comments made on the budget by stakeholders. And I wonder if we could look at other methods of communicating what we want to say to people so that we can get some form of feedback. And but I'm pleased to see that there are actions also put in place to address specific hardship. I'm really delighted, given these COVID times and many people not being able to work, that we are looking at hardship cases. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, on these stakeholders, Betty, as you know, even at County Council where we consult, we only get a couple of hundred people bother replying.
Right, yeah.
It's even harder for a smaller authority with a smaller budget. But your point is well made. We could do with their comments, but it's a job to get people to actually comment.
That's right.
What do members think about Maggie's idea that we had a little extra recommendation to give officers the power to write to whoever we write to say that we'd appreciate if we could actually do the £5 rather than the 2%? Ken?
Yeah, I strongly agree with that, Chairman. I think that would go a long way to helping our finances overall.
Thank you. Are the Labour group happy to have that added to it? Who speaks to the Labour group? Do you, Betty, or is it?
It's Cowinder.
Cowinder, what do you think?
Just remind me, somebody, please. What does that 2% equate to?
It's £1. Sorry, Chair, can I answer that?
Yeah, of course, Amy.
It is, and it's £1 something. I just need to tell you exactly how much it is. So it's Sorry, I wasn't very prepared for this morning.
No, nor was I. Otherwise, I'd have known.
It's £1.33 the 2% equates to.
Yeah, so it's not much, Corinda. The principle is, you see, once you get the £5, if you go for the £5, it gets into the base. That's the secret. Are you happy to have a little rectification or not?
I'm looking at my people. Yeah, maybe. Okay, £5. I'll take the decision, and I'm sure my guys will support it.
I think so, because I think it's in our interest if we could. I mean, we wouldn't want to do it all the time. It just gives us the opportunity, if it's right, because, you know, Corinda, again, for us Leicestershire people, we are the lowest funded fire authority in the country, as long as lowest funded county council. I mean, we're not going to get it this year, and they're probably going to tell us no, but we might as well ask.
Yes.
Yeah,
Callum, did you want to say something?
Yes, please, Chair, if I may. Certainly from the National Fire Chief's perspective, we have requested the Treasury consider the possibility of allowing the lower funded fire and rescue services the £5 flexibility. That obviously would encompass Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service as the second cheapest within the country. So from a national fire perspective, we've asked for that. So it would be useful if the authority would consider it. I'm not sure it will change the government's mind, but it is certainly to put it on the radar that funding is an issue for us and probably will be as we move forward for the next sort of 5 years post-COVID. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Callum. I've got Jeffrey next.
Chair, just a question. I'm sorry, I have had no notice of this suggestion. I'm not quite sure the implications. Surely, if £69.29 is our precept on a Band D, an extra £5, and unless I'm completely misunderstanding it, is 8%. And my concern is that it's, in general terms in local government, it's a complete cut in central government funding that's affecting local government right the way through. And I'm not sure whether we believe that the council taxpayers should be financing as much of local government that they're currently funding. So I'm not quite sure the implication. And is my figure right about 8% on 69?
Yes, it's a facility. It's not the, I mean, we can't do it this year anyway. It's just that other services, say the police, are allowed, district councils, small ones are allowed, parishes are completely uncontrolled. It would be a facility, you see. Obviously this year it would have been very difficult, Jeffrey, but it's a facility that other preceptors have, which we don't.
Yes, we do it at Opie and Wigston. We put a fiver on, but I'm not sure what percentage it is. That was all.
If you went for it this year, Jeffrey, you're right, it would be about 8%. We're not going for 8%, but it would be a facility to enable members to discuss, would they like to take that to enhance the service, or would we like to just go for the 1.9%? We haven't got the facility, Jeffrey. That's what we're asking for.
Okay, I won't oppose it, but
okay.
Chair?
Yeah, can I go to who's that?
It's Amy. Can I just add a bit of context for councillors, which might help them with their
And then just so you know, I've not missed you, and I'm going to you, Sue, then you, Mr. Thalduka, and then I've got Ken Ball again. Go ahead, Amy.
The reason I just wanted to interrupt was just I wanted to give you a bit of context about what the Bandy precept is at Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire.
Yeah.
So Derbyshire currently pays £77.70 and Nottinghamshire pay £81.40. So Derbyshire raise on their, if they had we paid the same our precept payers paid the same as Derbyshire, we would receive £3.2 million extra a year funding, and Nottinghamshire would be £4.4 million. We're like the third lowest precepting fire authority in the country. So it just shows you how sort of low funded we are compared to others. So I just wanted to add that bit of context for councillors. I hope that helps.
Very good. You're well on message there, Amy. Sue?
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that is important to realise, which you hinted at, was that by having small percentage rises, as our base level is so low, it actually means that every year our relative funding compared to others gets lower and lower. The £5 extra is probably less than some of the percentages on some of the bigger authorities. So it's probably something which won't make a lot of difference to many people, but we also need to bear in mind that in the city of Leicester, where most of the properties fall into Band A and B, any small percentage rise isn't really going to raise anything at all. but we also need to be mindful that a flat rate rise affects those people in the lower bands perhaps more than those in the higher. So it's a bit complicated, but we do need to make sure that our funding does not fall behind other areas. And obviously within the city we have discretionary payments, which I assume are in other places, so that those that are actually suffering hardship will get support. So it's not that we're actually asking people on the lowest incomes to make the biggest contribution.
That's right. That's right. It will be a facility.
Right,
Mr.
Can I come back there as well, please, if that's
Yes,
okay?
of course, Amy.
So just to reassure councillors as well, is actually for the districts and the building authority, like Leicester City Building Authority, we are given a lot more discretionary funding this year, and a lot of the lower funded houses are receiving additional local council tax support money. And actually, these schemes are, for a lot of us, have been a bit more flexible than they would normally be. So we are helping those households out, especially those that are really struggling through COVID at the moment. Sorry for interrupting. Thank you, Chair.
Well, we can't do it this year anyway. Councillor Thalluka?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Yes, I'm coming.
It's Talukdar, isn't it? Sorry.
You can hear me, Talukdar, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear
Chair,
you perfectly.
Thank you. My question is regarding growth proposed, page number 23. And 8.1, can officer elaborate some information to us regarding? We can see that 100,000 for 2 fire protection officer to assist authority to meet the recommendation of the HMIC FRS, and 200,000 for the provided additional resources with HR that would have previously been funded from the management of change reserve. A, B, C, and D, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Callum, you might as well run through all those.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've actually been working Alison and Amy really quite hard this year, and Colin, around squeezing the budgets and getting the most out of the budgets for the service moving forward. So if I start with the HR proposal, we've currently got a structure in place that has been funded for, I believe it's 2 years now, out of a management change reserve or an HR reserve. That has proved really quite useful for the organisation to be able to enable us to function well and support the needs of the service. So this proposal is putting that structure into the base budget. So we're not actually growing the team, we're substantiating the team that's in place to be able enable us to function at a decent level for both the recruitment needs of the organisation and the general HR business side of it. The expansion or additional growth to the fire protection team, I think, is in the face of an emerging and increasing risk for the county. I say the county, I actually mean the country. With the change in legislation that's likely to come post the Grenfell Tower inquiry, the increase in the demands on the fire protection team, particularly in the city area with the larger number of high-rise buildings, I see it as a pragmatic way forward to increase the capacity within Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service to serve LLR in the fire protection environment, which I think is moving up the importance in political spectrums as well as safety spectrums. So I've worked Alison, Amy and Colin quite hard to enable to find that growth. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor. If not, please come back to me.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go. I think you're a fresh hand on. You Ken?
Yeah, yes, Chairman, and really, Chairman, apologies in one way. Your comments, those of Amy and those of Councillor Barton, have really emphasised what I was going to say. The issue is simply that in all my time as a member of the CFA, which is 15 years, we have always been super efficient, and we have always been at the low end of the precepts. And has already been said, this actually impinges quite hard on our ability to raise funds. The government have recognised this once in the past, and we were allowed to raise it by £5 because they recognise that the low rate authorities, super efficient such as ours, we're almost self-inflicting pain on ourselves. So it's really to say we really should try once again to have this £5 unit, and the 3 million which Amy has already said would make quite a difference to our basic balances. That's all, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, Yeah. Sue, are you a fresh hand or an old hand?
Sorry, I'll take it down. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Well, I think we've got general agreement. So we've got some new recommendations which were emailed out to us. So I'll formally move those with the addition that we come up with, or Callum comes up with a form of words to fall in with what the chief fire officers say about this extra £5. I can't actually read it out.
Yes.
But we understand the principle that we want to back up the chief fire officers, that we ask for the flexibility, Councillor Thalduka, that if we want to, we could raise the £5. So are we all happy with that? Can I ask anybody who I can see to raise a hand?
Yes, we're okay.
And can you formally second it, someone?
I'll
I'll
second
formally
that.
second that, Chairman. Very happy.
Okay, so I think we've got general agreement. The recommendations are moved, seconded and passed with the addition of the £5, which somebody will come up with some words that tick the boxes. Great. Right.
Chair?
I've got Alison, I see, has got a hand up. She looks like she's back from wherever she went. Alison.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going. My camera's now on. Sorry, I had connectivity problems at City Hall. I just wanted to thank you for your kind words. I did hear them at the beginning of the meeting, and to thank the CFA, you know, for the many years of working very collaboratively with you. You won't be rid of me that easy. I'm still your Section 151 officer, and I just wanted to also thank the team. Amy and Colin are on the call. I'd like to take credit for the report, but actually my team do it. My team support Callum very well. So just to reassure the CFA members that you will still see me. You might not see me as often, but I will be there in the background, and my team will be very able in supporting you going forward.
Yes, you'll be coming out with grey hair, working prominently with SPS. Lauren, I can see you've got your hand up, Lauren.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry about that. So I'm having some trouble unmuting myself. Anna's just alerted me to the fact that some IT problems, obviously this morning, I think we're all having. Not all members are visible when speaking. I just wanted to alert you to that fact. The fact is the regulations require that members are heard and able to speak and be heard by others. There's no actual legal requirement that you can be seen as well, but obviously it's a benefit if members can be seen. So the options are to adjourn the meeting if you wish, Chairman, to try and resolve the IT issues, or to carry on, but recognising that might be occasions when it's voice only rather than voice and image.
Yes, I'd noticed that myself. My intention would be to carry on.
Yes.
Because the IT issues are all over the blooming place. So we'll carry on, Lauren. And if we do anything that's not legal, you'll have to tell me, and of course we'll cease.
Yeah, indeed. You were completely safe at the moment, as long as people can hear and be heard. Thank you, Chairman.
We've got two fresh. I think Sue's fresh, Sue, now. Are you, Sue?
Yes, my was a comment was going to be in a similar vein to the one that we've just had, which is that we had a show of hands, but I can't actually see anyone's hands because I've only got about 2 people who are visible on the screen.
Yeah, so what I'll say, Sue, just to make sure that we are legal, can I ask anybody who did not agree with the recommendations that were moved and seconded, and we all, those that can appear to vote on, if you didn't agree, apart from Bill Bolter, who's got his hand up to come next, can you raise your hand if you disagreed with the recommendations? Okay, Lauren, so I can see no hands up. So is that sufficient for your legal purposes?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, let's go to you, Bill.
Thank you, Chairman. As we just made a financial recommendation, should we not vote on that? Our names recorded. We are putting the precept up for the fire. I thought normally we have to declare that we're voting for it and who's voted for it and who's against it. That was all.
Yes, I understand that, Bill, but as far as I'm aware,
we've never done that before.
Nobody has voted against it, but if you'd like to record your vote against it, it can be. I've just said, I'll do it one more time. Anybody who did not agree with the moving and seconding of the recommendations with the addition of the £5, if you disagree, raise your little yellow hand. Okay, so everybody agrees, Bill, and hopefully you'll take that as a vote. Right, thank you. Let's move on then now to day crewing plus. This is agenda item 9. For clarity, it's 47 to 54 on your agenda. Callum's going to present. Over to you, Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. This is just a short update paper to advise the CFA on the progress against the decision made on the 29th of July 2020 for the authority to move away from the current day crew plus duty system, or day crewing plus duty system. Pleased to say that the group has now been established. The terms of reference have been agreed by all parties, and that's attached on pages 51 to 53 of the bundle for members to peruse at their leisure. The group's first meeting was held on the 22nd of January 2021. This was reported by all parties to be a really positive and constructive meeting. I have to say that in itself is a real achievement, to be able to get the relevant representative bodies around a table, agree a terms of reference and enter into the meeting in a positive spirit is a really good start for us. I know it's only a start, but it is a really good start, and it's kind of a testament to the maturity of the relationship between the officers and the Fire Brigade Union and Fire Officers Association at the moment. The group will now meet on a 2-weekly basis, so every 2 weeks there'll be a meeting to make sure we're progressing this with the relevant urgency and importance that it deserves, because the implications on the service may be significant over the coming years. At the moment, the group is looking at 13 individual duty systems that are in operation in various places across the country, which may then be suitable to begin the analysis work of how suitable and sufficient they would be within Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland, maximising our fire cover within our budget envelope. It's for this reason that the part B of the recommendation is being put forward, that the CFA consider only taking 6 monthly updates on it rather than quarterly. The reason for that, at the moment, the work is going to be incredibly detailed, looking at facts and figures in agreements or local collective agreements that are in place, and the likelihood is within a 2.5-3 month window, I'm not going to be able to give you a fantastic update, whereas 6 monthly we should be able to give you more relevant updates, and not consume your time in the authority meetings with almost holding papers. So it's off to a really positive start. There's an awful lot of work still to do, but the signs look good from the initial meeting or two, and all participants are proactively looking to find a way forward and solution to present back to the authority at later times. I don't propose to go any further, Chair, but obviously I'm happy to take any questions.
No, well, I think we're doing well with this. It just shows that good relationships with the unions count. And I think I agree, 6 months. We want to see stuff that's relevant. I've got Betty, then Ted. Betty.
I wanted to echo what you said, Chair. I'm delighted that we're moving forward, and perhaps during this process we could have a healing time too, to bring everyone together, because it has fractured the unions within the authority. And I would like to say thank you for all the hard work that you're going to be doing, Colin, and I do hope that we will be more collaborative in our working. And again, just thanks for moving this forward.
Yeah, I mean, on the 6 month, Callum, if something was super urgent, you can always bring it back anyway. Yeah. Let's go to young Ted.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those saying the word young. Thank you to Callum, to the Chief Fire Officer, for explaining that, because I didn't understand the rationale behind the movement of time. Really, for clarification, the page 52, where it talks about the overarching principles of the set of criteria, for us on the authority, would be fair to say that the new replacement system meets all those criteria. Basically, your decision has to fit those criteria under overarching principles.
What?
Yes, the overarching principles were put together by ourselves, both myself and Paul Weston, who's leading on this item, and the relative rep body. So they're actually a really useful set of overarching principles. Clearly, we as a service, I as the officer, want to maintain that 10-minute attendance time for life-threatening incidents. I think that's something crucial for us as a service. But equally, I need to be cognizant of the financials that sit behind it, as we just talked about with the budget. But equally, to reach a collective agreement with the Fire Brigade Union, we will also need to be respectful of their points. So the overarching principles are absolutely, they're almost the red lines for both parties. But we thought it really important to get them drawn out at a really early stage, rather than get to the 11th hour and recognise it won't work for the authority or it won't work for the FBU, whichever it may be. So yes, thank you, Councillor Parson.
Yeah, very good. Bill? Are you there, Bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't know if you know, but how many officers doing the day crew plus will be or due to retire before the new system comes in? So how many people are we actually talking about that will be, well, in one word, disadvantaged from what they have now?
So we have currently 74 people working the Day Crew Plus system. The I say the best guess, and let me quantify that later, and it is approximately 30 of them will retire within the time window before we take any change through to the next IRMP. However, that is a very fluid situation, with the government recently announcing the remedy for the national pension dispute, which may see that number increase. It's a speculative between 30 and 50% of those staff are possibly likely to retire before we get to changing the system. And then there will be those remaining staff, where what I can't say is what we'll propose to change it to. It may be a similar system, it may be fundamentally different, it may have to be a grey book existing shift system. So it's kind of our best guess at the moment. Certainly 30% will retire before, but that number may well go up to sort of 50-60%, depending on how the individual circumstances of the pension remedy affect those individual members. I think it's fair to say our more experienced and longer serving firefighters are based at the Day Crew Plus stations for many reasons that suit them as individuals. So that's why that percentage is quite so high. Thank you, Chair.
It's all a bit of a shame we've got to get rid of it, but there you go. I've no other speakers, so I'll formally move the recommendations, including B, that we only receive 6 monthly reports unless there's something urgent, obviously. Can you second that, Kulwinder?
I'll second that, Chair. Okay,
so can I take a vote? So can you raise your yellow hand, because I can't see everyone, so we're going to have to do it this way. Very good. Thank you very much. So that is now passed. So all hands down. Now we have a report on the pay policy statement 21-22. This is 55 to 70 of your agenda. We all see these everywhere, so you won't need to labour the point with it, Callum, but over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for saying that. I've only got a very short intro for this one, to be honest. It's a statutory requirement for us as an authority to publish the pay policy statement. You'll see that contained within pages 59 to 69 of your bundle, and all the detail is kind of laid out there and within. So if approved, the pay policy statement would fulfil the legislative requirement or the function for us to do. Happy to take any questions. Questions, Chair?
I'll formally move it. Can you second it, Kulwinder?
I'll second that, Chair.
We have no hands because it's something we see everywhere. So we'll just take that as read. If you disagree, raise your yellow hand. No, okay, that's passed. Thank you. Now we've got 11, which is Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Service COVID-19 inspection outcome, 71 to 84, and it's you, Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. It's my absolute pleasure to submit and draft this paper back to the CFA. It does contain on pages 75 to 84 the outcome letter of the HMI CRFS inspection to our response of the first 6 months of COVID. I've previously provided verbal updates that I felt the inspection went really well for the service, and it's really nice to see that's now been confirmed by HMI CRFS. Content of the letter is absolutely awesome, kind of testament to the hard work that everyone's putting in across the service, not just the senior team, but everyone at support departments, fire control, appliances and equipment. The whole service has really pulled pulled together on this one and really delivered well for our community. We continue to work really hard as a service, not only for the COVID related activities, but adding loads of improvements as we go. And it's really encouraging that we're making progress on that. We're making a lot of improvements, and there's a real momentum building in the service to kind of show that productivity is increasing despite the challenges that COVID has presented for us. So I think there's some really, really good evidence that not just for the COVID inspection, but as from our last inspection back a few years ago now, we really turned the corner and are really starting to steam in some really good directions. So in summary, it's a great outcome for the CFA and the service, and certainly for our communities, and we continue to move forward positively. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Good. Let's take Betty first.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just to ask whether or not you would I know you will do it, send our congratulations and commend everyone for all the work they're doing. If that could be filtered through the Chief Fire Officer from you down to the officers and staff, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I agree with you there, Betty, and this will be published on the website as well. So
that's good.
Let's go to Ted and then Michael. Ted.
Oh, thank you. It certainly on page 72, it says the words how it was pleasing to see that as well as managing the service, officers were able to directly influence the national agreements in place to allow more support to be offered. I saw a specific example of that on 78 and 79 about how you had to find new disinfectant wash chemicals for the apparatus. You were able to find some and then be able to disseminate that information to other authorities. So that was pleasing. Could I ask for clarification one point on page 76.10? Sorry, I do apologise. Page 76.12, it talks about and point B. Just having to look at it on the screen. Apologies. It should update its community risk profiles of people and premises to take account of the changes the pandemic has caused. Are we talking here about more people working from home, Callum?
Yes, and some. If I'm honest, it's interesting. Obviously, as we speak as chiefs, pretty much every authority has got that comment in their feedback letter, and I think it's focusing of the service responded really well and rose to the challenge of not only delivering a service but also stepping forward in the local resilience forums. But none of our supporting or overarching risk methodology changed because of the impact of COVID. So I think as we move forward, we need to look at a number of things such as people working from home, so the increased life risk in domestic dwellings during the day, but equally the reduced life risk that's then caused of that in office buildings and the fire protection measures of those buildings. So I think it's almost a review of our risk methodology and resource allocation because of the change in personal dynamics or demographics of how people behave and where people are working from. It's not an easy piece of work, if I'm honest, because yes, we could undertake it, and yes, of course, we'll look at that. But actually, as we head hopefully towards the end of COVID, there will be some kind of shift back to a normality. Now, it might not be the same normality as what we left, but I think there'll be a natural balance that occurs that means we will continuously have to review the risks. So hopefully that answers your question, Councillor.
Good, thank you. Michael?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a comment really that obviously during this time of COVID, it's been a really difficult time for all public services. So it's really welcome to read such a positive review and letter of the service that's being provided. So really just to commend everybody involved in delivering such a quality service for residents in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland.
Thank you very much, Michael. So we've got recommendations. I'll move them. Kulwinder, could you second them?
I'll second them, Chair.
Thank you. Again, raise your yellow hand if you don't agree. Okay, so we've nobody dissenting, so that is passed. It says here, Callum, we suggest that you leave the meeting for the discussion of the next item, and then Anna will let you back in when we're done, because it is the recruitment of the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer.
Yeah,
So
certainly. I'll leave now. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, and Anna will let you back in when we're done, Callum. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this report is 85 to 88. Lauren Haslam, the monitoring officer, will present. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a very brief report setting out the proposals for the recruitment of the CFO. As you mentioned earlier on, Callum Fate is currently holding the position on an interim basis only. The constitution of the CFA provides that the appointment of the CFO is vested in the CFA, and in practice that's delegated to a panel of the CFA who undertake the sort of nuts and bolts really of the recruitment exercise and the interview and so on, and make a recommendation to the CFA for a formal appointment. The report sets out the detail of the suggested approach behind the recruitment process at paragraph 9, and as you'll see, I'm suggesting there'll be a review of the job description to ensure that it's fit for purpose and up to date, and then an indicative timescale set out then at paragraph 14, as you'll see, with a view to a formal appointment being made in September 21. But recognising, as with all things, there may be some slippage in relation to that, depending on other sort of business priorities. And I think it's important we have a date that we're working towards and a sort of framework in which we're working. The recommendations are at paragraph 2, and as you'll see, we'll be trying to recruit a panel of 5 members. Anna will be approaching members of the committee to secure a representative employment panel to take this forward. Chairman, if
thank you. Lauren, can you tell me, does the 5 have to have some sort of political balance or not?
Yes, we do try to achieve a political balance on
okay, so I would suggest we go 2-2-1. Would that tick your boxes, Lauren?
I think that's what we normally do, Anna. Can you?
Okay, so from our side, I would obviously put Ken Ball on if he's willing to do it, so he represents Rutland. I suppose I'll have to do it representing the county. The Labour group will make up their own minds, and the Liberals will make up their own minds. So from my side, it'll be myself and Ken.
Mr. Rushton, it's Anna. We do have 3 Conservatives and 1 Lib Dem and 1 Labour on a committee like this.
Oh, do
usually.
we?
Yes, we do usually.
Well, can we change our minds?
Yeah.
I think it's important we get buy-in, because the Labour group obviously represent, apart from Betty, mainly the city, and so it's important we get, say, Betty from the county and 1 from the city. I think we'll go 2-2-1 if that's okay with everyone, so we get buy-in from the city members. Because it's not a political thing really, it's just to make sure we get the right person. It's important we get Ken on because he's Rutland as well. So we'll go 2-2-1, Anna. So from the counties, from me, it's me, Ken Ball. Kulwinder may well be able to tell you who the Labour group is. And do you lead for the Liberals, Michael?
Yeah.
So when hopefully you'll be able to tell Anna who you want. Right, let me just take Ted, I'm going to take Kulwinder first as the leader of the Labour group. Kulwinder.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, if I can come back with the names after the meeting, I'm sure that Betsy, Councillor Newton, may wish to be on it, but then we'll also put 1 on from the city.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea.
Yes,
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you'll come back with that. Let me go to Ted first, and then I'll ask Michael to, if he's got any ideas who he wants. Ted?
Yeah, thank you. The 2 questions, please, for clarification. Page 86, as part of the point 9, part of the application process, it says meet with senior officers within the service. I wondered if you could explain what that means.
Okay. I would expect it's as simple as a informal discussion. Sometimes, I think the last time we did this, it was a sort of informal luncheon and a coffee and a meeting with colleagues in the service. It's not really part of the formal interview process in the sense of being scored and measured, but it's an opportunity really for candidates to meet the team with whom they'll be working if they were to be appointed. It's a 2-way process. Obviously, this exercise, the candidate may not wish to work for the service, so it's really just an opportunity for meeting and greeting.
Okay, thank you. And then the second point is, there is talk on page 86, 87 that there is the scope to review whether it's a permanent contract. What criteria would be considered to change that to either a fixed term contract or remain as a permanent contract.
And that wasn't my intention to suggest it would be anything other than a permanent appointment. If that's the impression it's given, then I'm happy to correct that now. It's intended to be a permanent appointment.
You okay with that, Ted? Right, let's
obviously I understand that, but perhaps it was the way I read it, but it did indicate that there was some scope available to change it continuance on circumstances, but it's okay.
Well, the panel makes recommendations to the entire authority anyway. Michael, have you got who wants to do it from the Liberal side? Do you know?
Can I consult on this and come back to you afterwards and
sure.
give you the name of
okay, that's fine, Michael. I just wondered if you knew. Okay, so we've got the recommendations. Anna, you've got the nominations from my side. You'll await the Labour recommendations from Kulwinder and the Liberal from Michael. So I will formally move the recommendations which are listed as A to A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you second that, Kulwinder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Right, being as we can't see everyone, can I ask anybody who doesn't agree to raise their little yellow hand, please? Okay, so we have no little yellow hands, Lauren, so we'll take that as approved.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to let Callum back in now then, Anna?
Yes, I will do. I'll just
We'll have to wait till he's back in because he's presenting the next report.
Yes.
As soon as he's back in, will you tell me?
I will do. I'm just calling him. Callum, it's Anna. Can I just check that you're back in and we can hear and see you?
Thank you, Anna. Yes, I'm back in. I don't know if you can see me or not. My camera's on.
Yeah, we can see you. Thank you very much. Right, next report, whole time recruitment, pages 89 to 96, and Callum's going to present it. Callum?
Thank you again, Chairman. As hopefully members will recall, at the last CFA meeting, I informed you of the urgent action taken between meetings to bring forward the recruitment activity of whole-time firefighters. And this paper is to give you an update of the quite significant amount of action that's been undertaken during that time span. To meet the reporting requirements of the CFA to get this paper, this was written towards the end of January, and there's a bit more of an update subsequent to the paper being submitted to provide members to give a bit more of a rounded position. I think to summarise the process itself has been run well, and there's a mixed picture of success and areas we could improve on when it comes to diversifying our workforce. So as it stands at the moment, I think we've had a very good and effective outreach program that has made significant improvements in advertising our role and receiving applications from non-white or black and minority ethnic backgrounds. Which is a really positive. I think where we've let ourselves down a little bit, and there's more distance for us to travel, is around the gender applications. Sadly, only 10% of the applicants were females. So clearly quite a significant disparity from the demographics that make up our communities. So post writing this paper, the process has continued at pace, and we've now completed all the interviews, and we're now entering the final stages of checks prior to offering employment. The demographics of that currently shows 8% female, but slightly over 20% black and minority ethnic candidates. So I think it's fair to say we're disappointed with the female percentage ratio, but we are actually pleased with BAME ratio. So I can't give you final specifics of who's been offered jobs yet, etc. But the progress has progressed at a rapid pace of knots, and hopefully we're offering employment in early May. I would suggest, Chair, if you're comfortable, I'll pause there, but only to say we'll bring a full report back at the end of the campaign to let you know the outcomes, and probably also start talking about recruitment in 2022 at that same point, simply because, as I alluded to earlier, the outcome of the pension remedy may see an increased need for us to recruit workforce at an earlier opportunity. Happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Callum. I'm going to take Betty first because she leads on this. Betty?
Sorry, Betty, I think you're on mute.
Apologies, I thought I'd put it on. It's more or less saying, can we possibly go back, Colin, and look at our recruitment processes and see what we can do better to encourage more women to come forward further in the next recruitment process. I think a little bit more work perhaps could be done there, and I'm willing to work with you on that one. Thank you. Bye.
Very good, thank you. I'm going to take Kulwinder next. Kulwinder.
Yeah, just quick observations of what's been presented. Like Betty said, I think the female figures or the percentage probably concerning. Yeah. But we could look at what's behind that, what's the driving factor. However, with the BAME, sort of reassuring that, we're working towards the right direction. And I think we need to remember two things here. One is a lot of the engagement with the BAME communities happens by getting into the BAME communities. And with this lockdown, it's probably prevented that. And then we need to put the 20+% of applicants in context to what the overall percentage of BAME probably is in the county. So, it's not 50% that's what we should be expecting. I think it's got to be in line with the demographics and the breakdown of demographics. So maybe in the future we could just have those figures of what the non-white or BAME figures are in the county and the city as a whole, and compare it to that and see how far we are off or how far we're over-delivering on that. Could be the case.
Yeah,
so well done.
Yeah, that would be a good point to get those figures, Callum. I mean, obviously, we've always been keen, Kulwinder, to up the BAME community applications and firewomen, fire people, ever since me and SPS took over years and years ago. So I think we're doing pretty good. Yes. But it'll be interesting to know the actual percentage. Because obviously, as you can imagine, Callum, it's a lot higher in the city than, say, it is in Leicestershire, and even a lot higher in Leicestershire than, say, it is in Rutland, for instance. Anyway, let's carry on. So the next person I've got is, so I've done Betty, Kulwinder. So I've got Ted, then Bill, then you, Sue. Ted.
Thank you. I remember that in 2019, you asked me to represent the authority at a passing out parade, and at the time I found it fascinating because on that particular day, I think, if memory serves me right, about 7 candidates have made it through to passing out. I do distinctly remember that day that 2 were female, and I believe 2 were from the BAME minority group. So it was a good representation that day. But something I didn't have time to ask on the passing out parade, and it's for interest information, but at the same time I'm keen to say I don't want to take up officers' time, but I'm just curious personally as a member of the Fire Authority how large numbers, a relatively large number apply, and then only a significant minority make it through to the interview. What is the sort of the criteria that a lot of people fail on when they apply to become a firefighter? Is it merely just physical aspects? Is it time aspects with families? Or I'm just interested to know, because obviously, like on that day back in 2019 at Bow Manor Hall, I think there was again about 300 and there was 7 passing through. So I'm just curious to know what process someone has to go through that causes them to really narrow that field down.
You know that, Callum?
I do. I don't have the infinite detail here, but certainly we go through an application form that tests the individual's characteristics, desire and competencies. That's the first point. So we take an application form and sift people down from that point. We then, as you'd expect, do some physical testing, as the role of a firefighter is physically demanding, and there are a number of nuances. So, for instance, we do need to test people in confined spaces because the likelihood is a lot of our activity operationally will feel or be in confined spaces. Also, the going up ladders, working at height, etc. These are things that you can't teach people. They are inherent fears within the human. So we need to test if they are able to go into those environments. Equally, there's some physical testing around aerobic capacity and strength testing for using of equipment. And then also there is the interview process to really interact with the individual, to almost get under their skin a little bit, to kind of see, is community at their heart? Are they joining the fire and rescue service to make communities better? Not just an emergency response phase, but obviously a lot of the work we do is around education, working with people and educating the community to become safer. Interesting, we have already done some analysis on the dropout rates or the sifting down rates, and it's quite encouraging to see that the process is non-discriminatory to anyone with a protected characteristic, disability aside, because of the need to do physical aspects of the role. But actually the application rate to the end pull rate looks proportionate across all of the protected strands, which actually is good news for us. And just to finalise some of the comments made earlier around we need to do more work, yes, I totally accept that. I think irrespective of what the outcomes of percentages would have been, we need to do more work, which is exactly one of the reasons why we've seconded a watch manager into the equality, diversity and inclusion team to further that work. So to reassure the authority, I take that seriously. I recognise we've got some work to do, not to distract from the fact that actually even the 8% and the 8% female and 20% from the BAME community will increase the diversity of our workforce. So it's not all bad news. I think it's almost just to say we recognise it's not the finished piece of work and we've got more work to do. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Bill, you're next.
Yes, we've got more people applied than what we've got positions for. So one assumes, perhaps wrongly, that those who do pass, we haven't got places for. When places do come available, you contact if they're still interested. Well, and advertise the posts again. I assume that's what happens.
Yes, a bit of both, if I'm honest, Mr. Bolter. Yes, we will retain their name on file, and yes, we will look to contact them if we have further vacancies that arise. Or equally, we may even consider, depending on the numbers, we may even consider holding them on a waiting list until next year to add to the pool of further recruitments next year. Hasn't been finalised, the exact arrangement, yes, but equally, it's very time consuming and very resource intensive to recruit for firefighters. So if we've got good and willing candidates, we won't just discard them.
Thank you. Okay, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to make perhaps some suggestions related to recruitment of future female firefighters, and because I think it needs a cultural shift within all our communities. Perhaps one way of doing that is to start putting the idea amongst younger women and girls that they could become firefighters whilst they're still at school. I don't know whether we send people out into schools to give talks about what's involved. Perhaps we could also start looking at people that perhaps are in particular sports clubs and things because of the fitness levels, and talk to PE teachers about giving people confidence to develop the physical skills which are needed to pass the physical tests. So that people can see what's involved and start thinking about it as a potential career, especially for those that we could perhaps identify quite early, have got the necessary skills that could be developed as a way of bringing forward more female firefighters in the future.
We are struggling with females, you're right there. So Callum, can you think of any ideas we could do with more females? You know, I know it's difficult because they're just not as big and as strong as men, but what can we do?
So through SEDIP, there's already quite a lot of that work underway, Councillor Barton. So we are becoming more and more visible in the youth environment, not just schools, to try and promote our service as a whole for recruitment, not just operational firefighters, actually all of the industries that we kind of run within the fire and rescue service. We've identified the poor return, and we've gone out to all fire and rescue services looking at who's done better and how and why. ironically, our very close neighbour Derbyshire seem to have had some really significant success with female recruitment. So we've already got some people going over there to really scrutinise what they've done. And so it's my aspiration that for our next recruitment campaign, we've incorporated all of that learning to kind of really improve that area. I can't offer a defence. I don't fully understand why we're not getting the applications, but it's a fact that we need to do better, and I'm not shying away from that.
Are you okay with that, Sue?
Yeah, it's just that I went to an event where people were doing the physical tests. My own daughter passed everything first time and found it relatively easy, and she's probably older than the age group that you're looking at recruiting. But she already has a career, but she has always trained and done sport, which makes me think there's possibly a link between females that are involved in sports and then them developing those physical skills, because she's only a small, slight woman. So it's not that she's bigger and stronger physically than anyone else, but she did have the ability to be able to carry out those tests, including the lifting, which I couldn't do at all. So I know that people can develop the skills without necessarily having particular masculine physical characteristics that would say that they are naturally bigger and stronger.
Yeah, good point there. So, right, Kilwinder, is yours a fresh hand?
Mine's an old hand.
Okay, I'll go to Betty because she looks fresh.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that we have been trying to do an awful lot of work, but COVID has had an impact on the outreach work that we've been trying to do. We have had Have a Go days. We've had a big event at the HQ a couple of years ago where a lot of women turned up, and we spoke to them there. I've had equality days where we've spoken to women as well, but it's how you get from that to actually getting them to come forward and put their names forward to stand as firefighters. But we have been doing work, but maybe we need to do that bit more. And I'll speak in terms in the Equalities Forum to see what else we can do to encourage more women to come forward. Thank you.
Good. Well, we're all in favour of getting more women, females, if we can, Callum, but there you go. So I'll move the recommendations, which we're just noting. Kilwinder, are you happy to second them?
I'll second them, Chair.
Okay, being as we can't see anyone, can I ask anybody who disagrees with the recommendations to raise their yellow hand? Disagrees. Okay, Lauren, so nobody disagreed, so that is passed. So item 14 is the training facility, Service Leadership and Development Centre project update. For the record, this is on pages 97 to 104 of your agenda pack. We've got Matthew Wallace, the Director of Estates and Building Services from the City. I think he's going to present the report, but did you want to say anything first, Callum, or not?
No, thank you, Chair. I'll hand straight over to Matt Wallace.
Okay, Matthew, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Callum. So the report provides the Combined Fire Authority with an update, progress update on the design and the build of the service's new training facility, Leadership and Development Centre. The last report to the CFA occurred on the 16th of December, and obviously since then since that in the reporting period we've obviously had the Christmas shutdown and also national lockdown 3 starting in January as well. So these have been some impacts that we've found during that reporting period. So the update that I've got today gives us a progress update more so than some delivered outcomes that we were hoping to get at this stage. So as I said previously, not just local authorities taking a Christmas break. Caterpillar, who were the occupiers of the potential site that we're looking at, have also been on an extended break during Christmas period. So we've not been able to close out the full details of a potential deal with those at the moment. But in the meantime, what we've been doing is we've appointed a agent who's investigating the potential of a 1.5 to 2.5 acre site to house the fire behavioural unit and supporting infrastructure of the dirty side of the training facility. What we've also been doing is working with the fire service in terms of the existing facilities and assessing their potential and for repurposing it around the training. namely the items around Loughborough, and the learning and development staff have been refining their requirements. Also taking into account COVID and how the delivery of training may change during this period as well. So really sort of recasting the thought process around what sort of training is going on, what physical training needs to go on, as opposed to maybe the emergence of things like virtual training headsets and things like that, 3D headsets and things like that as well, factoring in all those aspects into the sort of new world of learning and development and training facilities. In addition to that, what we're also doing is going back to the estate strategy, which is a document that was shared probably about a year ago with the CFA, which includes assessments around the operational estate. So these are the 5 stations which potentially we could incorporate into a wider scheme. I think in summary, for me, before I sort of touch on the recommendations, Caterpillar, I think it's safe to say that Caterpillar is a potential host site for the Dirty training facility and are still engaging. But at this present stage, there's no firm update that I'm able to give to the CFA. Hence the reason why we've utilised a property agent to go and look for those alternative sites, see what the market values are at the moment for a potentially smaller, a little bit maybe more cost viable, cheaper option than previously mentioned at the CFA. Equally, it will still deliver the outcomes that we want as a fire service, but it enables us this period now just to have a little pause moment to be able to reconsider all of those different aspects to make sure that the facility that we're looking at providing is actually fit for purpose into the future. It sort of brings me to the recommendations on the paper. They pages 97 to 104 in the bundle, which is the 3 items are the time it will take to review the utilisation of the operational estate for training purposes means that the progress of the training facility and the Leadership and Development Centre will appear to have slowed down, because it clearly has slowed down due to these external factors. But also the need to consider alternative sites for the fire behavioural training unit as well, and the support functions supporting that. And I suppose the third and final one is probably the most important element to consider, which is around a further progress update to be presented to the CFA in its meeting on 16th of June, where hopefully we'll have got to that stage where hopefully we're well advanced in terms of our response to COVID. And we can see the sort of emerging landscape around training and development design, in addition to being able to understand exactly the situation with the priority site for us, which is the Caterpillar site, whether that actually comes to fruition or one of these alternative sites that we're searching for becomes a bigger priority for us to focus on. That's it, Chair. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. That seems entirely reasonable to me. I'll just take the questions. So we've got Ted.
Oh gosh, right. Thank you. So to understand clearly, the alternative to the Caterpillar would be other sites that the agent is scouring for. Is it the intention that should the agent find is tasked with finding one suitable site, or giving you almost like a short list? And will you take the decision to narrow that down to one, or is it your intention to bring a short list to the CFA to say these have been identified? And of course, if the discussions with Caterpillar were favourable, then you'd be looking just to park that shortlist and really just use that as a backup. And then the final question is,
shall we do that one first? Ted, let's do that one. These are quite detailed. Let's do that one first, because I think we'll be lucky to get the agent to even offer us a site for the budget we've got. And then, of course, any site that's suggested has got to get through Callum about whether or not it's suitable. Would that be a good summary, Matthew?
It would, Chair, and the only other thing to add on to that is obviously the complexity of land acquisitions is obviously there's a certain degree of confidentiality and taking into account, obviously this is a public forum, it's difficult to be able to negotiate a commercial deal if we go too soon and show our hand on certain assets. But notwithstanding all of that, there's some key stepping stones we need to go in that process around making sure Callum and the fire service are comfortable with the potential sites. There will be a short list though.
Okay. So if you want detail, Ted, you can't have it now. You'll have to email Matthew and he'll tell you. Go to your second question, Ted.
And also, yeah, I will do that. Thank you. But also, am I understanding this correctly that the Loughborough site is a consideration to develop, or if a favourable site became available, the facilities at Loughborough would, the training facilities I'm talking about, obviously, would close and just relocate?
Yeah, at the moment, what we're looking at is trying to utilise the existing facilities at Loughborough and enhance them, and then have an acquisition of a smaller site that will pick up the dirty aspects of the training, the fire behavioural unit, etc. But all options are on the table at the moment, Councillor, in respect to that. Using this pause moment at the moment, all options are still on the table.
Yeah, all options still. Okay, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. Am I right? I don't know whether I've picked this up wrong. You'll excuse me if I use the wrong terms. But I understand, I thought somewhere along the line that the Caterpillar had sold, or the ownership of the land that we're currently using had changed hands to somebody else, and they weren't keen on us staying there, because you said Caterpillar were engaging. Perhaps I've picked it up incorrectly. Novia Logistics, is that the organisation? I don't know, but it's And as far as Loughborough is concerned, I thought that was coming to the end of its useful life, and we were concerned that in about a year's time it would be unfit for purpose. Don't know where I picked this up from. For the dirty work, I think is the term that it does. So that leaves me with a problem. Have we got a short time span to replace this? And what's our plan B? Because from previous experience for this, to get a local authority, get planning permission, all the stuff like that for the type of work that's done, it's going to be rather difficult to get appropriate land. So do we have a plan B to carry on the training? Because perhaps I've picked up somewhere, our firemen regularly have to go through that training. So is there a possibility that we'll run out of land and run out of time, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Let's let Callum answer some of that, because it's more operational. Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, to all of those questions, if I'm honest, Mr. Kaufman. Yes, firefighters have to regularly train in fire environments and carbonaceous burn environments, and it is a requirement. We, as a service, have been quite proactive to make sure all of our staff are very recent in their reaccreditations for that. So in the event that the Loughborough site becomes unusable in the future, we have a degree of time that gives us some flexibility. Our plan B, if we aren't able to identify any land and build the new site, is that we can use some neighbouring fire services facilities, or indeed the fire service college facilities in the interim. Now that comes at, there will be a financial cost associated with that, and there'll also be a logistical cost associated with that of taking a number of firefighters to different sites, includes quite a bit of wasted travel time, as well as the logistics of getting fire engines to those scenes, etc. So we have kind of got a plan B and C in place, but I think the nub of your question is the right one, of actually time is becoming an issue for us now, and the sooner we can progress this, the better. Certainly the risks associated with it are probably increasing rather than decreasing, which is where I'm really quite keen to, not in a public meeting, have the discussion with Matt and Assistant Chief Officer Grucock around what sites are being identified and how quickly we might be able to progress with them. So I think yes to all your questions, Mr. Kaufman.
Yes, they're good questions, Jeffrey. We're aware of the problems we've got. We don't want to be discussing sites too much here because it's a public meeting and it'll disadvantage negotiations.
It wasn't specific sites, it's the general situation. But thank you for the answers. Clarifying for me.
So I've got no other hands up. So we've got some recommendations to note, and they are A, B and C. If I formally move them, Kulwinder, can you second them?
I'll second them, Chair.
Right, so again, because we can't see everyone, you've got to raise your little hand if you don't agree with the recommendations. Okay, again, Lauren, we have no little yellow hand, so I'll take that as the motion is passed. Number 15, service delivery update. This is again for the record is on pages 105 to 110. And Callum, you're presenting.
Thank you, Chairman. This one won't take too long. It's a very brief summary of some of the activity that's going on, not all. And hopefully members will read it and recognise the kind of common themes from the HMI CRFS inspection that, again, as a service, we continue to work very hard and deliver quite a lot across the board. Our crews are finding new, innovative and passionate ways of reaching our community. And it's a really interesting example, but the crews at Melton and Oakham participated in the shoebox appeal over the festive period, and they helped to gather over 1,000 shoeboxes full of food, support, other welfare items for those really disadvantaged in the community. And I have to say, the service didn't have a hand on this. This was because of the passion and the drive of the individuals. Whilst, of course, we supported them, we didn't make them do this. They chose to do it, which is powerful in itself. Very direct or very limited direct benefit to the fire and rescue service, but massively important to the community. And this is where I kind of think we really have that opportunity to grow and offer more and more and build more relationships and trust with the community. Prevention and protection work continues in the face of COVID. It's hindering us but not hampering us, and we're continuing to deliver increased levels of productivity. The only thing I would draw to members' attention, sadly, the number of fire fatalities we've had have gone up over the period. So there are 3 fire fatalities within the period we're reporting on now, but that brings us to a total of 5 since April. Obviously, every fatality is too many, but five is a reasonably significant number. There are details around each of those, and some of them we would never be able to have prevented because there were deliberate acts to harm themselves. However, it is important to kind of recognise that crews are not only going to fire fatalities, but the number of road traffic collision fatalities and other fatalities is increasing. We now report that a breakdown to Corporate Governance Committee on a lot more granular level detail around the level of support and interventions we're providing to staff to mitigate that welfare respect. And again, I'll take it while I can, but on-call availability is significantly up for the year, but I'll also be transparent in the fact that is likely caused because of the COVID pandemic, number of staff being furloughed and working from home, so able to offer more availability. We'll continue to explore the long-term possibilities of maintaining that, but I think it's worth recognising their continued effort in the face of the pandemic and still continuing to give up their time in what will be a challenging time for them and their families. So I won't cover any more, Chair, but happy to take any questions that arise. Thank you.
Okay, well, I get the notification of fatalities and it never ceases to amaze me, Callum, how many fatalities where we're assisting ambulance or road traffic accidents. Although there's 5 fire ones, it's a small percentage of the total fatalities you attend. Okay, let's go in order. Betty, and then Ted. Betty.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. It's just a wonder from you as Chair of the authority whether we could send a message of support and thanks to our firefighters out there, because if you actually look at how they've responded to COVID-19, face-fitting testing for health service staff, supporting the ambulance service, COVID compliance inspections on behalf of Charnwood District Council and Leicester City Council. So that's in addition to their normal work. So could you, through you as chair, could we send
that's a good idea, Betty. We'll think of some words and we'll add it to as agenda item D on the recommendations. Okay. So you think of some words while I just go to Ted, then I'll come back to you, Betty.
Okay, thank you.
Ted.
Thank you. I found it fascinating that on page 106, we actually completed more safety checks, 1934 compared to a previous period in 2019, which was 1396. So how come we've been able to do more during COVID-19? And secondly, in terms of the reduced movement on the roads, the figures you've given on point 11 on page 106, how did they compare to the same period in October to December 2019?
Thank you, Councillor Parton. The honest answer to how we've been able to do more, there's as you'd expect, it's multifaceted. There's quite a strong desire from myself and the senior team to increase our productivity and visibility to the community. So we have been pressing that message quite hard that we want to see an increase of productivity across the board, but we're starting to see that. I think also there have, whilst COVID is obviously a pandemic that has some real disadvantages, there's also been some opportunities that we've been able to seek out around working with other partner agencies to better identify those most vulnerable, whether it be through the vaccination programme. So an example I'll use is crews are attending vaccination centres at the moment to not deliver the vaccine or not to help with the vaccination process, but to interact and engage with those more vulnerable members of our community. Obviously, they're all going to the vaccination centres at the moment, so it's a great opportunity to maximise our benefit and increase the number of home fire safety checks we do. Equally, we've embraced Zoom and Microsoft Teams technology, so we've been able to further our reach with people by using technology. So it's a trend that I hope will continue, or certainly I'm asking my team for the trend to continue to deliver more and more safety interventions with the community. With regards to figures compared to previous years, they're reported quarterly to the Corporate Governance Committee. They actually figure relatively well compared with other years at the moment. So we are under our 5-year or 3-year average of fire deaths. We are under our 3-year average of road traffic collision deaths. The only area that is going up is the number of special services we attend with fatalities. That's not because the incidents didn't occur previously. It's because police used to go and force entry to those premises rather than the fire service. So I think it's fair to say that the deaths or fatalities always occurred. It's just we're being more and more exposed to them now because we're using our capacity to gain entry and free the police up to deal with their other busy workloads. Thank you.
That's exactly the point I made to start with, wasn't it, Callum? Okay, I won't come back to you yet, Betty, because I've got Bill Bolter.
I'll send it through to you anyway. Just send a quick note.
No, we can just read it out in a minute, Betty. Let me go to Bill, then I'm coming back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. It's partly been answered. I was going to ask how many times we've been called out to gain entry to premises. Those figures might be useful to record. So it's how many times we are being called out rather than what you've been done by the police. If that's possible at all.
What do you think, Callum?
Completely possible. It's reported through to the Corporate Governance Committee on a quarterly basis. So I'm more than happy to circulate those figures if that is of interest to the authority.
Yeah, if you've got time, do it, Callum. Right, let's go down to Betty now for this agenda, for the little D, which is thanking people.
Okay, just wanted to say very quickly something. Thank you for all the work that you're doing and continuing to do on our behalf. We can't imagine how hard and how difficult it is for you in these COVID times. And we just say, please take care and be safe. Something along those lines, Colin.
Okay, so I'll formally move the recommendations with the addition of Betty's D. Kulwinder, are you happy with those?
I'll second them, Chair.
Good. So being as again we can't see anyone, they've been moved by me, seconded by Kulwinder. Anybody who doesn't agree, raise the little yellow hand. Yeah. Okay, Lauren, we have no one, so that is formally passed. So the final thing is the calendar of meetings 21-22. This is on 111 to 114. Lauren, you're presenting.
Nothing really much to say, Chairman, other than as it's set out there to recommend to the CFA the dates that have been set out on the schedule for the CFA meetings and the subcommittees.
Thank you. In that case, I will formally move them. Colwinder, are you happy to second them?
Happy to second, Chair.
Again, as we can't see everyone, can I ask anybody who disagrees to raise the little yellow hand? There's no one there, Lauren, so that is formally passed.
Thank you, Chair.
Agenda item 17 is urgent action. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have any urgent items. So the date of the next meeting is 16th of June. We better assume we're doing it by Microsoft Teams. If things change, we'll let you know. I understand the government's going to tag something onto some legislation to enable remote meetings to continue, because technically they're illegal after some date in May. If we can have a formal meeting, I think we can do one, but I think if you diary 16th of June at 10 a.m, we'll let you know in due course how we're going to conduct it, but we'll certainly conduct it by Microsoft Teams in the event of not being able to do anything else. So that concludes the meeting. I thank you all for attending. Been a good meeting, some excellent contributions. Thank you for your work, Callum. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.